Greetings, Pokey fans! Michael here. Before we get started on this video, I just wanted to make sure that you acknowledge the beautiful Christmas lights I have attached to my Pokemon plushie bookshelf. I just really wanted my work to be appreciated since I was working on setting it up for countless hours. And by countless hours, I mean approximately 10 minutes. One of my favorite things about the Pokemon game series is how the experience is unique for pretty much everyone who plays it, primarily due to the composition opportunities for your Pokemon team. If you talk to anyone and ask them what their playthrough team was for a particular Pokemon game, chances are very low that their team is going to be identical to yours. And even if the Pokemon species were the same, the movesets are most certainly different. About 2 years ago, I made a video going over every single one of my teams for my first playthrough of every single game in every single generation of Pokemon, with pairs of games counting as one game. So Diamond and Pearl, it's just whichever one I played first. But third version games like Platinum, that's different. That video has gotten a lot of positive feedback, and I've gotten several requests from you guys to make an updated version of the video with several of my new teams that I've used since then, so I decided to do that. This will be an updated version of my Pokemon teams from every generation, but since I'm planning to include my Pokemon teams for some of the spin-off Pokemon games where you can have a traditional Pokemon team, this video will be my Pokemon teams for every game. This game will progress in generational order, not the specific order that I played the games in, so be sure to leave a like on the video, and without further ado, here are my Pokemon teams for every game. Starting off with Generation 1, we have the team for my only playthrough of Generation 1 that I have ever done. I got my start with Pokemon in Generation 3 with Ruby version, so because of that, I never actually completed a Generation 1 game until they came out on the Virtual Console in early 2016. Since Yellow was the third version and therefore the most fleshed out and Charizard could actually learn Fly in it, that's the version I decided to play through. My team started as Pikachu, Venusaur, Blastoise, Charizard, Alakazam, and Tauros. Pikachu due to being the starter, the three normal starters because they were strong and I never used all three at once, Alakazam because I wanted to use an OP Gen 1 Psychic type, and Tauros because I love Tauros and had never used one. And Gen 1 was when Tauros was the strongest by far due to its high speed and critical hit ratio. I really wanted to kick some booty with one, and I did. The team changed as things progressed though. The first change was replacing Venusaur with Rhydon. I used Venusaur a lot early game, but after getting past Surge, I wasn't really ever using it. Rhydon is another big buff Pokemon I wanted to use that I knew would help a lot with the league, so I switched it. And the final change was replacing Pikachu with Zapdos. Yellow version's Pikachu has regular Pikachu stats, meaning it's super weak. I got tired of losing it all the time, so I went and caught Zapdos to use as my electric type. It was a lot better. Now for my next team, which is the first update to the original video, that being including a team for Generation 2. As I mentioned earlier, I started with Gen 3, so I never actually completed a Gen 2 game until it was released on the Virtual Console, this time in the fall of 2017. Since Crystal wasn't released with Gold and Silver, and I like Lugia, I decided to play Silver version. I actually did a complete Let's Play of that game here on the channel, so if you're interested in watching me play through a Gen 2 game for the first time, check out the Let's Play. My team was Typhlosion, Steelix, Machamp, Fearow, Alakazam, and Lapras. This team was one that I actually did quite a bit of research for ahead of time, so the team I used was one that I believe to be one of, if not the, best team possible to use in a Gen 2 Johto playthrough. One interesting part of this team is that it included, by far, the most members from in-game trades of any team I've ever used, with half the team, Rocky the Steelix, Muscle the Machamp, and Kenya the Fearow, being from in-game trades. It made my life a lot easier having boosted experience on half of my team, since a lot of the level curves in Gen 2 are really weird. Although, one drawback of using Steelix is that finding a metal coat on a wild Magnemite to evolve it at a reasonable time in the Gen 2 games was a nightmare. Now on to Generation 3, which as I mentioned was the first generation of Pokemon that I ever played, so things are gonna go more chronological for a little bit. I played the game Ruby version when I was 9 years old, so I didn't really understand the concept of a balanced team. So my team was just Blade the Sceptile. I recall not being able to beat Brawly with just my Grovyle, so I grinded in Petalburg Forest for God knows how long until it learned Leaf Blade, which it learns at level 29, 10 levels higher than Brawly's Makuhita. Blade was then overleveled for the rest of the playthrough, so I just easily beat pretty much anything with just Blade the Sceptile. Groudon and Rayquaza were pseudo-members of the team as well, since Groudon helped with the League and Rayquaza was used extensively for League rebattles afterward. But Sceptile was the only one for most of the playthrough. Now on to Leaf Green, my first ever playthrough in the Kanto region. Since I didn't play it very long after Ruby version, I still didn't use a team and just used my Blastoise named Squirt for pretty much everything. Like, I didn't even use other legendaries. It was just Blastoise. That was it. It was in Emerald version that I finally started using some semblance of a team with a 3-man squad of Swampert, Breloom, and Torkoal. They did pretty well overall, and I was even able to get 2 silver symbols in the Battle Frontier using them, despite just being random playthrough Pokemon. I was, and still am, pretty proud of that. Next, I'm going to go over Pokemon Coliseum. I didn't include it in the last video because it's a spin-off game, but I decided for this one, since you do actually use a regular team like a main series game, I figured it deserved to be included for this one. Now, I'll be honest, I have some difficulty remembering what my first Coliseum team was, since I've played through it a couple times since then, and I don't have the original file for it to look it up. I believe my team was Umbreon, Ampharos, Hariyama, Feraligatr, Entei, and maybe Jumpluff? Umbreon I'm 100% certain on, since I ditched Espeon in favor of the evolution I liked more. I'm pretty sure on Ampharos and Feraligatr, somewhat sure on Entei and Hariyama, and Jumpluff is a complete guess. Side note, it took me way too long to realize that this was probably the first time I ever played through a game with a full team of 6 Pokemon. However, I do remember my team for Pokemon XD, Gale of Darkness, the sequel to Pokemon Coliseum, far better. It was Vaporeon, Camerupt, Electrode, Shiftry, Hariyama, and Fearow. Now, you may be surprised that Hariyama was used in both games. Well, the reason for that is, I can't remember which game I used it in. I know I used Hariyama in an Ore playthrough, but for the life of me, I can't remember whether it was in Coliseum or in XD, since you can get Makuhita pretty early on in both games. I'm starting to think that maybe Hariyama was in XD, and I used Hitmontop in Coliseum, since I really liked Hitmontop as a kid. That would make sense. Sort of. Hitmontop's level up moveset in Gen 3 is absolute garbage. But I did look those up less often as a kid, so maybe I just dealt with it. Side note, I did do a playthrough of Pokemon XD here on the channel. It's not my first playthrough, obviously, but the team I used in it was pretty dope. So if you want to check that out, you can do so. Now on to Generation 4. My first ever main series team of 6 was in Pokemon Diamond version, and that team was Torterra, Staraptor, Luxray, Floatzel, Dialga, and Drifblim. The last of which was replaced by Lucario, since Drifblim was pretty much useless. I love this team a lot, and it's the primary reason why I like Torterra and Luxray so much, with Staraptor not far behind. Now on to Platinum version, which is a kinda weird, kinda sad story. So when Platinum came out, I got it on the day it came out, and I played through it. Not long after that, I actually completed the National Dex on my Diamond version. So since I had pretty much nothing else to do on the game, I decided to transfer the Pokemon that I cared about, including that original team of 6, onto my Platinum version, and then start over my Diamond to play through it again for fun, which I did. However, very sadly, I then lost that Platinum game card over the course of a move from Houston to Midland, Texas, and I never found it again. That original Platinum file and that original team from Diamond are gone forever. And I also can't remember for the life of me what my original Platinum team was. The only thing that I can remember about it is that I started with Infernape. However, I did get another copy of Platinum that I do know my playthrough team for, since I still have the game card and looked at my Hall of Fame. And while it's not my first playthrough of Platinum, if I don't tell you this team, I don't have a Platinum team to tell you. That team was Torterra, Magmortar, Raichu, Staraptor, Floatzel, and Giratina. There are quite a few repeats from the original Diamond team, but keep in mind I had already played through Sinnoh 3 times prior to this Platinum file. Twice on Diamond, once on Platinum, doing one playthrough with each starter. It had been a while since I'd used Torterra, Staraptor, and Floatzel, so I decided to use them again. After that was my first ever playthrough in the Johto region, that being in Soul Silver, which I played most of on a spring break trip to Washington, D.C. as a high school freshman. This team was Typhlosion, my favorite Johto starter, Ampharos, Golem, Scizor, Poliwrath, and Lugia. However, once I caught Suicune after the league, I replaced Poliwrath with it since he wasn't very good. This was the final team that I beat Red with. Now we move on to Generation 5. My first Gen 5 playthrough was White version, and I really liked the team that I used a lot. It was Samurott, Zebstrika, Crocodile, Ferrothorn, Conkeldurr, and Archeops. I did sub out Zebstrika for Zekrom for the climactic battle with N and Ghetsis at the end of the first league, but that was only for that battle. Zebstrika stuck around for every other occasion. Next was Black 2. Now, I know that White 2 is supposed to come after White, but I actually played Black most recently before Black 2 and White 2 came out, since to keep myself busy on a very long flight to London during my junior year of high school, I bought Black version and played through it. Also, I thought Black Kyurem was cooler than White Kyurem, so Black 2 is what I went with. This was actually an interesting playthrough since for the first time ever, I actually used a team of more than 6 Pokemon. So I pulled a Gary, rotating around which Pokemon I used depending on the situation and the matchup. It was kind of a challenge since I only had access to the held item experience share, but it was still a really interesting experience that I might try again at some point. Unfortunately, I don't know which 6 members I actually took to the Pokemon League, since the game only stores the most recent 10 or 20 Hall of Fames. It doesn't save the first one, so since I beat the league too many times, I can't see what my first Hall of Fame team was. So I guess just guess? The Pokemon I rotated around were Samurott, since I used Superior in Black and never wanted to use Emboar, Sawsbuck, Sawk, Zoroark, Cobalion, Beheeyem, Crobat, Flygon, Gigalith, and Ampharos. A cool collection of cool Pokemon, except for Beheeyem and Sawk. I don't know why I went with those. Now it's time for Generation 6, in which my first playthrough was of X version. My team was Greninja, Charizard that went Mega X, Heliolisk, Gogoat, Lucario that also went Mega, Xerneas, and Talonflame. There's 7 Pokemon here because I used Talonflame quite a bit prior to getting Charizard, and even after I got it, since I was pretty attached to it. It didn't come to the league, but I still used it elsewhere, especially when hatching eggs. Next was my Omega Ruby team, which I picked for obvious reasons since I played Ruby as my first ever Pokemon game. My team was Sceptile, obviously, Gyarados, Aggron, Manectric, Gallade, and Crobat. This team was fun since every member but Crobat could go Mega, and boy oh boy did I use those Megas. I actually used a different Mega in every battle of the Elite Four, I think. So that was really cool. Also, I finally got to use a Gallade on a playthrough team for the first time ever. I'd really liked Gallade for a while, but never gotten the chance to use one, so this game presented me the perfect opportunity. Kind of. I had to trade over a Dawnstone from my X version, because stupidly in Oris you can't get a Dawnstone until you beat Wally at the end of the Victory Road, but thanks to X version, I made it work, and I had an awesome Gallade that I used. And now for the final generation in this video, Generation 7, in which my first playthrough was Sun version. I'm really attached to my Pokemon Sun team since we went through a lot of crazy stuff together, all of which was on camera since this was the first game that I did a full Let's Play of on YouTube for my first ever playthrough of the game. Speaking of that, all of the Gen 7 games I'll be discussing, Sun, Ultra Sun, and Let's Go Pikachu, I did playthroughs here on the channel. So if you think any of the teams are exceptionally interesting and want to see me use them, you can watch the Let's Plays. My Sun team was Decidueye, Vikavolt, Lycanroc Midday Form, Palisand, Salazzle, Solgaleo, and Shiny Gumshoos. Yes, there are 8 Pokemon here, but I still consider all of them a part of the team. I found Hero the Shiny Gumshoos in the second episode of my Let's Play, a full odds random shiny, and it was so cool and exciting that I used it for as long as I could before it got outclassed by better Pokemon. Now I like to say that he's in charge of running Poképelago for all of my other Pokemon and really enjoying his retirement. Solgaleo sort of replaced Salazzle since I thought it would match up better against the members of the league, but I still continue using Salazzle after beating said league. Like I said, this is one of my favorite Pokemon teams that I have ever used. Interestingly enough, I also feel pretty similar about my Ultra Sun team. A really awesome squad of Pokemon that made it through some insane, incredible moments. That team was Incineroar, Hawlucha, Toxapex, Garchomp, Totem Vikavolt, and Alolan Ninetales. There was a Sceptile for a bit, but I replaced him with Totem Vikavolt since I've used Sceptile before, but never used a freaking Totem Vikavolt. This team is one of my favorites since I got to use several Pokemon that I've always loved, but never had a chance to use in a playthrough before. Specifically, Hawlucha, Garchomp, Toxapex, and Alolan Ninetales. Also, this team survived the insane, iconic Ultra Necrozma battle, so it gets a lot of points for that. And the final team for this video, my playthrough team for Let's Go Pikachu. The team was Pikachu, the partner Pikachu since its stats were actually good, Mew, Venusaur, Arcanine, Lapras, and my shiny Aerodactyl from Pokemon Go. I did use a Golem for a bit, but ditched him since I really wanted to use Aerodactyl. This team was great since I got to actually see more of the Pokemon, what with the whole riding and following thing. It was really cool to have an Arcanine on my team for the first time and to ride around on it. That was awesome. Also, I got to use Mew, a mythical Pokemon, on my team for the first time ever, and that was just plain fun. Anytime I needed a specific type coverage, I just gave it any TM I wanted, and that was a lot of fun. Alright guys, that wraps up my Pokemon teams for every game in every generation of Pokemon so far. More games are gonna come out. I might do another update of this video in a couple years. We'll see. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to drop a like on the video. Let me know down in the comments below which of my teams is your favorite, and maybe share some of your favorite teams that you've used in playthroughs before as well. Also, if you are new here, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Make sure you have notifications set to all. I make a bunch of fun Pokemon videos all the time that I am sure you will enjoy. Alright, that's all I have for now. So until next time, Pokefans, gotta catch them all!